Ballyclare District Historical Memorial Association. The 1641 Massacre. The Massacre of 1641, one of the bloodiest deeds ever perpetrated in all of the dark and bloodthirsty history of Ireland. On that horrifying Saturday, the 23rd of October, the native Irish papists, led by Sir Phelim O'Neill, were incited, encouraged, financed, aided and abetted by the Roman Catholic Church, rose up in an insurrection, the sole purpose of which was the total eradication of Protestants and Protestantism throughout the Emerald Isle. All that had been accomplished in the previous 3 decades since the plantation of Ulster, spiritually, politically and economically, was to be eradicated by fire and sword. The destruction of an entire colony is no light task. Its accomplishment at a period when gunpowder and shot were too good to waste necessitated the free use of fire and water. At Portadown, over 1,000 were at one time or another drowned in the River Bann. The bridge was broken down the middle and the victims thrown in with pikes from both sides. A similar scene recorded at the River Toll near Loch Hall Armagh. 200 were piked and thrown into the Tyrone Blackwater, which for some time was red with blood. 180 were drowned at the Bridge of Callan. 300 were drowned in one day at a mill pool at Killamoon. When there was no suitable water available, Protestants were driven to bog holes where they were held under with pikes until they slowly died. Fire was less merciful than water, was also an agent of quick destruction. 152 men, women and children were burnt in the castle of Liscool in Fermanagh, 22 in a thatched house at Kilmore in Armagh, 26 at Langale in the same county, and a number in the church at Blackwater Town. Protestants were crucified, dragged to their death behind horses. Bodies of Protestant victims fed to the pigs. Protestants stripped naked and dragged to their death. Protestant women tortured by Irish rebel soldiers. Coleraine received fair warning and was not only saved but proved a welcome haven of refuge for many stricken Protestants. Carrickfergus, Lisburn and Belfast also remained untaken. But outside these places, Ulster became a barbaric field of blood. The home of the Protestant clergyman and the farmhouse of the Protestant husbandman, all in flames. Protestants hid behind hedges and in ditches in droves, stripped completely naked, crouched for shelter, the husband trying to shield his trembling wife, and the mother her petrified children from the fury of the assassins and the biting cold of one of the severest winters that could be remembered. These atrocities do not depend on hearsay. There are 32 volumes of sworn depositions that exist in the library of Trinity College, Dublin, to affirm the reality of the horrors of that time. It is a sickening read, and the worst cannot be put down on print. We can tell of the infants whose brains were dashed out against walls in front of their horrified mothers, of others who were flung into boiling pots or tossed into ditches for the pigs, of poor Protestants whose eyes were gouged out of their heads and their hands and their ears cut off in barbaric savagery, or of the many who were actually buried alive. In County Mayo, 60 Protestants, 15 of whom were ministers and under safe conduct to Galway, were stabbed and drowned by the soldiers of Edmund Burke. At Clones, 17 men were buried alive. There were special cruelties reserved for the Protestant ministers, 30 of them massacred in one district. Some were hanged, dismembered and their heads cut off, with pieces of their own bodies stuffed into their mouths. The Reverend Thomas Murray of Killyleagh was actually crucified in blasphemous mockery of Calvary between two other Protestant gentlemen. His two sons cut to pieces in front of their mother, then she too was savagely mutilated and had her tongue cut out. The murderous rebels of 1641 showed no mercy to any Protestant, regardless of age or sex. 3.5 centuries later, and in our third decade of the war of genocide currently being waged by the Roman Catholic terrorists of the IRA and their offspring, little has changed, with the exception of the weaponry. Swords, pikes and daggers have been replaced by bombs and bullets supplied by Libya and other communist nations. The sad fact is that today the events of 1641 are very much forgotten. Our people are unlikely to hear the facts from our churches, where ministers continually tell their congregations that we must forget our aggrieved divisions. Our children will most surely not hear of this major event which influenced all of Ulster history, because in schools today all effort is being made to emphasise our supposedly shared culture and heritage. And to some, it is accelerating the process of de-Protestantisation to prepare for the final push towards a Roman Catholic dominated Irish Republic. Some believe that a nation of people who do not learn from their past history may be condemned to relive the same atrocities.